je suis Redman, Vice President de mobilité. Now I can continue in English though, but thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for coming. It's always exciting to talk about mobility. I've been working in mobile technology for close to 20 years now. I joined CITRIX just about 8 months ago, where I came from Gartner, where I was an analyst for almost 13 years, covering mobile enterprise solutions. So it's always exciting to watch the progress of the industry, and I really feel we're seeing some great developments and many companies that are starting to join in this area. So thank you for coming, and I want to talk a little bit about today about some of the challenges in the mobile area, some challenges with IT, and some of the things that IT is facing, and then some of the solutions and how mobile services, mobile technology can really help a lot of organizations. So if we look and think about mobility overall, the growth of mobility in the enterprise is really just starting. This is from what we do on a weekly basis, an annual basis. We look at all the news, the information, the talk about mobility. At the end of 2013, we put together this word cloud. And mobility certainly is growing, even in comparison to big topics such as cloud or virtualization, which have been big efforts in IT for many years. And I think if we look at the first 3 months of this year, mobility will be even bigger, with many of the deals that are being done in the mobile technology space, acquisitions, investments, and new products and services that have been emerging. I think mobility is growing rapidly. But mobility and the use of that technology in the enterprise, it's still just at the beginning. If we think about how we use mobile technology today for our personal use, it has really changed our life in so many ways, whether we use it for finding locations of restaurants when we're traveling, or people's houses, playing games, tweeting, Facebook, all these things that we use. And your children use even other applications like Snapchat and WeChat, and all these things that many of us don't use as adults, but many applications that they use constantly. The impact has been very big in our personal life. And although all of us here, I'm sure we use email on our mobile devices for the enterprise, we probably do very little after that. Email, texting, messaging, conference calling, maybe occasionally a video call. So I believe that the impact of mobility on our personal life has been greater than it has been on our business life. And so I think that there's lots of opportunity for creating more mobile solutions. The reason in the enterprise is so slow to adopt is the expense, so the cost of creating mobile solutions, the fragmentation in the industry, so the challenges of dealing with multiple standards, types of devices and OSs, and the existing legacy infrastructure that enterprises have. It's complicated. It's complex to install new mobile solutions at many enterprises. The solutions that have won the most in the enterprise, if you think about it, have been capabilities like BlackBerry, right? Certainly not popular today, but a very popular solution because they covered all the basic elements of mobility. They were able to support the hardware, the operating systems, right, the software and applications, and even the network services. And so they came with a solution. Apple's success has been because they came with a solution for personal users. If you want a song, you just hit one button and it downloads right to your device. You want an application, a movie, they have the content, they have the OS, they have the hardware. They didn't need to do much on the network sides because we had advanced network capabilities. So they created a solution for personal users. And so I think it's important when focusing on mobility, when thinking about the enterprise, is coming with a solution, I think is the most likelihood to success for advancing mobility in enterprise space. So there are good things that are happening, right? But you need to think that mobility is more than just the hardware, more than your tablet, more than your smartphone. So many companies, so many people focus on the thing they can hold in their hand as what mobility is. So I think it's important to focus on more than just that. Right? Certainly device security, getting access to information, supporting that data is critical. And so although we may not talk about security all the time, we believe that security needs to be part of everything that we do. Right? There's concerns about using your device for personal use and business use. Right? In many areas, bring your own device, or BYOD, right, is becoming more popular. It's very popular in the United States. So close to 80% of companies we talk to allow their employees to choose a device. Right? And we think it's becoming more popular in Europe and Asia and other locations. Right? But that means you need to have more security to manage your enterprise content and secure your enterprise content on that device. With Android growth, that becomes even more critical because Android has even bigger challenges with viruses and malware on some of the application stores. Right? So the idea of choosing your own device and using devices that weren't designed for the enterprise, right, creates another challenge. Right? Because those devices weren't designed to do the same number of emails or set up long meetings, and the scale of the personal devices weren't meant for business. So a lot of people still like their BlackBerry devices because they were designed for the business user. Right? They lost their way a bit. Right? And so I think it's important when we think about how to support the business user, right, there are special needs both from IT and from the individual that can be supported and used, right, to help them support these types of devices that they're using today, an iPhone or an Android device. And so I think it's really important to consider that. So these are, some of the new enterprise mobility guidelines. And the biggest one, I think, one that is consistent from all my years of looking in the mobile market is that, the one size doesn't fit all. Right? It's a saying we have in the United States. You can't make everybody do the same thing. Now in IT, a lot of organizations want to do that for cost, security reasons, for support. Right? In our homes, we are the IT managers in our homes, and we need to scale to 3, 4, 5 people. But in an organization where you have to support hundreds, thousands of users, it's not always possible to do that. And so it's a big challenge. You can't make every user have the same device, support the same applications, and be supported in the same way because they all have different needs. So we think it's important to look at different types of users, the different data they have, the location, the types of devices they use, and create solutions based on these types of individuals versus just one solution too. Some other things we believe, thinking about kind of our CITRIX, give you some insight into what we think about CITRIX and how we also work at CITRIX too, because we not only develop a lot of the technologies, but we try to practice them. So for instance, I'm based in Boston in the United States, but most of our product people and operational people are either in Florida or in California. And many people work from home, like I do. I have a home office. Right? Many people work remotely. They telecommute. They may be only in the office for 2 or 3 days. And so because of that, you need technologies. You need access to data. Use the technology in many things that we develop. And so some of the things we think of, first of all, work is not the place. It's not a place where you are every day. It's wherever you are at the moment. Right? So there's not necessarily a central location that everybody should go to. And if you have to travel for work, right, it's nice when you're not traveling that at least you can be in your office. And today the technology capabilities of working remotely are as good and sometimes even better in your home than in the office. I have faster internet speed in my house. So today I have fiber optic technology right to my house, right, which speeds are faster than what I can get in the office. So sometimes it's even preferable to be there. Also, we think simpler is better. Right? A solution doesn't need to be complex. Even if it is, it doesn't need to appear to be complex. On a mobile device especially, users have less time to access information. So they need a simple way to access that data, right? It needs to be simpler, more intuitive. We also think the idea of anyness wins. So at Citrix, we create some solutions, we create applications, but it doesn't mean that you can't use what you already have. We work with more partners, more competitors, I think, than any other company out there. We're willing to work with what you have. You don't have to just use a Citrix solution. And so we think it's important to have a neutrality, whether it's from us or as you're looking at your own solutions, a neutrality that you can work with what you have that's existing already, right? That you can work with the best of breed or put a solution together. Because if one size doesn't fit all, that means that you're going to have to support almost any type of capability that's out there. Now, I think it's important to put policy and to put some guidelines around what you're willing to support, but it can't be restricted to just one device or one network or one application. And that's what the idea of anyness is, right? To support whatever direction the market goes to, whatever direction you need to support for your customers and your employees. So some, I think, key trends as we kind of look forward to going on in the future, right? So I think one of the reasons that enterprise is ready to take off is because all the components are there today. So if we look at some data from different companies that are out there, from Gartner, right, the smartphone and tablet growth is tremendous. Right? Certainly we see a large number of tablets being used by enterprise users. However, companies aren't paying for the tablets. In most cases, the user pays for it themselves, but provides enterprise data on that, uses it for enterprise data. Right, so we haven't seen a decrease in the number of devices. We haven't seen a decrease in the use of laptops or desktops in the enterprise, at home for sure, but not as much in the enterprise. The mobile user today has more devices than they ever had before. Right, so the technology, the capabilities of those devices increased, as have the network capabilities. You know, does anyone here use 4G technology for their telecom service provider? Raise your hand. I always like to see. So about 30% or so, 40%. Well, it's such a big difference. I bet by next year, everybody will raise their hand. If you ever tried it, it's a huge difference on your cellular phone between 3G and 4G. It's definitely worth the extra money for the device and for the service because the performance is so good, right? The reduction of latency especially, but the additional throughput and faster capability of the network makes all these applications work so much better. And I believe as more people get on 4G services around the world, today it's very small. You can see at the end of last year, right? Just 300 million people, but by 4 years from now, at the end of 2018, right, 1.4 billion. So the majority of people will be on 4G services. That network capability will allow users to access more applications and data and have a much more enjoyable experience. So enterprise mobility has all the components today to be successful on the technology side, at least for the networks and for the devices. Right? Software, applications, still big challenges there because a lot of the enterprise software providers, the SAPs, the Oracles, even Microsoft, haven't done enough to advance their software capabilities, their enterprise applications to work well in a mobile environment. It was only last week that Microsoft launched their Office capabilities for the iPad as an example. Did anyone download that yet? Anyone try that out yet? I tried that, right? A few people, yeah? Yeah, works pretty well. No, it's great, they rebuilt that. Right? But that was their theory of what to support for a while. It's taken them a long time to get to that. Right? Enterprise mobility solutions are still, we call the early majority, just being adopted. Right? So they're not mature yet, and this is probably mostly in North America and Western Europe. Well, if you go to Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East, Asia Pacific, Latin America, it's even further back. Today we see a lot of adoption of mobile device management, as I mentioned, wireless email capabilities, but we haven't seen companies take the next step and look towards mobilizing a lot more of their processes. So companies need to go beyond the basics, I think, and that growth opportunity is just really starting. Right? Android is dominant overall in the marketplace, but in the enterprise, it's just growing. So today, the dominant platform is still iOS. Right? Android is a very small percentage in the enterprise, just around 27% overall. Some markets may be a little bit bigger, but overall, most companies are still not allowing Android to be used in the enterprise. We think that's changing. We're seeing this grow. We're seeing a lot more interest in Android. And Android today has over 50% market share for smartphones, but just not in the enterprise because of those concerns around security. But with mobile device management, with antivirus, security solutions are emerging and are available today for Android. And Android has a wider variety of devices at a lower cost that are available that we think enterprises will start using more and more. We're seeing that really starting to change. So a lot of companies say they want to mobilize their business, even though they haven't. Right? But the question we have is, well, what does that mean? We work with a lot of different industries: healthcare, government, financial services. Each one of these different industries has their own definition of what they mean when they think about mobilizing information. Some say they want to have access on a smartphone or a tablet, right? We understand that. Some say they want to have access on any device from any location, whether at home, in the office, from a hotel room. They just need access to data. Right? It doesn't mean they need to put it in their hand. It means that they just want to have access from different locations. Right? So the definition of mobility and what enterprises want to do is very different depending on who you talk to. It goes back to that one size doesn't fit all. They have challenges in the IT around consumerization because it isn't just one device or platform like BlackBerry. Right? Certainly, as I mentioned, iOS is dominant today with Apple. Android has a significant share and is growing. Maybe Windows will be next. We saw only a small percentage of Windows. We haven't seen a lot of interest there yet. But certainly that's something that needs to be assessed and looked at, and a little bit more popular here in Europe than it is in North America. But certainly Windows as a mobile platform is still out there, and there are others. Right? And the fact that fragmentation is a challenge for enterprises, if you're creating an application, which do you use? You just can't create, one. You'd have to create a mobile application, may have to work on all of them. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of these devices don't come with the same security or capabilities as an enterprise device would because it's not needed in the consumer marketplace. And finally, another big challenge is a lot of applications and uses of these devices are available in the market for free, before the company even launches them. And so you think about mobile video as an example. Very few companies have their own mobile video solution. Users have Skype or FaceTime, right? Or other solutions. There are many of them that are out there. Uvu, you name it. Right? Those solutions are out there. Right? Companies don't necessarily support them, but their users use them. They may not have the same level of security or capability or support. Right? But consumerization means that a lot of software is cheaper to produce and that users will adopt it first, even before IT supports it. So that's a huge challenge for organizations as they're thinking about what to do next. Right? So we have this whole bring your own everything, not just your own device, but also bring your own application too. There's a challenge of supporting the next generation of employees. Most of us, when we started work, we might not even have had a computer. I know I didn't. Or we didn't have a cell phone. So when our business gave us one, we were very happy to use whatever they gave us. Right? But today's employees, the new employees, They grew up with their own cell phone, their own laptop. They know what devices they like, what services they like, what applications they like. Right? And in order to appeal to them, companies are finding huge challenges on how to cater to those individuals, what we call the digital natives, who grew up with this technology. And so companies are struggling on how to support and get the security and management they need over their data, but yet give the freedom to these users to allow them to choose what they like. So it's a huge challenge for many companies. Right? Disruptions, whether through weather or politics, right, seem to be occurring and more. And we know that the impact is greater globally than ever before. When a recent example, when Russia went and put troops around Crimea, a lot of people said, oh, why is that important to me? Right? That's countries that are far away from the United States, as an example. What do we know about that? Well, the next week, when their oil prices went up and they started paying more because there were concerns about that, or obviously concerns in Europe around the delivery of natural gas, right? We are all connected. And so these disruptions impact all of us, whether they're politics or weather, whatever those are. And so it's an important part of a company's business continuity planning to prepare for any type of disruption that may come. We have a very big client, Deutsche Bank, and they wanted to get access to their data, to their trading systems, no matter where they are or what is happening. They built a new headquarters in Hong Kong. Right? And Hong Kong, though, is susceptible to very extreme weather at times. So they wanted to make sure that their traders had access to their data, to their trading capabilities, even if they couldn't come into the office, because they can lose tens of millions a day if they don't get the right trades in. So it's important for them. So disruptions are a challenge for every company. Right? And we think that the pace of these things are increasing. If we think about just a few years ago, certainly disruptions aren't new, right? But we feel like the pace, the velocity of these disruptions have been increasing more and more, right? Maybe it's part of it as we hear about them more often. If a plane goes down in the ocean, or if troops are moving into another region of the world, right? We hear about them more, there's more discussion. But we think that velocity is increasing. And so CIOs, IT, needs to prepare more and more for whatever these disruptions are. And so they have certain plans for sure. We've seen them go towards teleworking, right? Allowing users to work from home if they can't get in the office. Right? If we get 20 centimeters of snow, right? If it's too cold outside, we can still work from home. Right? Global expansion, not putting all your people, all your data in one place, but expanding around into different countries of the world. Right? So there are lots of different strategies that CIOs have been using. And we think it's important, mobility will be an important part of these strategies going forward. And so we always ask, about different strategies, what companies are doing. And one CIO came in and we asked them about his strategy for change in the future. Right? And we said, oh, my strategy is DOS. And we said, DOS? Like MS-DOS? Microsoft DOS? We haven't heard that in a while. No, the strategy that they had was don't own stuff, DOS. Don't own stuff. Right? Hardware is a commodity, right, for them. Right? Servers, doesn't matter anymore whose they're using. To them, it was more important to have access to data, to exchange data, not to own the systems that they're on, not to own the devices that their employees have. Right? It's a different world. Another came in and said, oh, our strategy is Mac. And we said, oh, you're changing over to Macintosh, right? We see a lot of companies going towards iPads. In our own company, 40% of our users have MacBooks and MacBook Airs. We have a very big bring your own device service capability at CITRIX. And so about 30% of our users take advantage of that. And they said, Mac? He said, no, not Macintosh, but we say moves, adds, and changes, right? Mac, moves, adds, and changes, MAC. And for them, just having to move a computer every time someone changed their office or moved the telephone cost them millions of dollars. And so they were able to save a significant amount of money based upon eliminating the need to do all these moves and changes. So the key thing is to find what you need to do, what's important for your organization on how you can save your money or you can optimize your environment. And so there's lots of different ways that that might happen. It's not just putting everything on a mobile device. Right? That may not be the most important thing for you to do for everybody. And so you have to take today's assumptions that everything's in the office, right? That it's company owned, that it's wired, right? You know, that it's on premise and that it's a single solution, right? All these things, right? Versus what the exceptions are today, right? And switch those around. We think that today's assumptions, today's exceptions, I should say, become the primary capabilities of tomorrow, right? So we think, no, not everything will be wireless, but everything needs to be mobile optimized. Not mobile first, but you always need to think about mobility when making a plan, because that will be an impact, right? The office could be anywhere, and it's not owned by the company. More and more of these capabilities, these applications, the services, the devices, will be owned by the individual. And not everything will be wireless, but you have to accommodate for what those wireless needs are. So sometimes there may not be a good connection. You may need offline capability too. Right? The cloud isn't the dominant capability today, but it's growing in adoption and use, and more capabilities are moving to the cloud. So you need to build and think about the cloud also. So today's exceptions become the primary rule in the next couple of years. And the way that we look at it is creating an end-to-end solution. We think it's important to look at the total solution, whether it's through collaboration, data sharing, the different mobile platforms, right? Providing legacy support for Windows, but maybe as a service versus having to own every different type of operating system that's out there. Networking capabilities, the network is an important part of it, so it's not just the device. It's not just the back-end infrastructure like we have with different platforms and cloud platforms, but it's also the network capabilities in between. So we think that the solution encompasses your hardware, your software, and your network technology. Right? And that there are different types of solutions. There isn't one, but these need to also work with the legacy systems that companies have today. So we look at all these different things, and we have products in each of these areas for collaboration, like GoToMeeting, file sharing and content management with ShareFile, Zen Mobile as a mobile platform to support and mobilize your capabilities. But also we do the same thing with Zen Desktop, a capability to also mobilize your existing Windows applications to support data on any type of device. We'll show you a demo in a little bit to show you what we mean about accessing your data from any type of device, what we mean by that. Right? The networking capabilities, NetScaler is used by 9 out of the top 10 internet sites around the world, and it's also used by thousands of enterprises. And so it's a product that can scale to support, from as high as you need to as low as you need, and very, very variety of different capabilities. So the key thing is to put these solutions together. And we don't think of mobility as just our mobile platforms. We think mobility incorporates different pieces out of each of these different areas. We think that's really important. And as we mentioned, it needs to be designed around the way that people work and how they work. Right? So when we think about mobility, we think about the idea of, we call it the workspace. Right? So the workspace, you have a user in the middle. The user is the most important thing, we think. We call them the original mobile device. Right? Because the user has their own individual needs, different data they need, different locations they're accessing that data. So you don't go from the technology first. You need to think about where the user is, where they're moving, and what their requirements are. So it's important to build solutions, we say, from the bottom up, from where the user is up to the technology, not provide technology first and hope it works for the users. When I was at Gartner, we said that 80% of the CRM, Salesforce automation solutions at enterprises failed. And they didn't fail because the technology didn't work. They failed because they weren't adopted by the end user. They were too complex or didn't provide the benefits to the end user. So the way to avoid failure is think of the end user first. Right? Think of the different work styles we say they have. Are they, there's not one way that they will work, right? consider segments, different work at home and flexible working and telecommuting, part of your business continuity plan. So it's the workspaces and the work styles that help you design a solution. Right? So coming from the people on one end, getting access to the data, right, through the network. Basic architecture for enterprise solutions, but the key thing is understanding what those requirements are by those individual users in each of those areas. The types of devices they need, locations they are at, the type of networks they use, wired, wireless, and the types of data and access to applications that they want. And so, we provide solutions along this different stack to give a seamless experience is our view, right? So we have this stack of networking and cloud infrastructure, right? So the basic components of supporting the capability. An app store that works across mobile devices and legacy computing devices, right? So when we think about mobility, we think about laptops too, and even desktops, because you want to move the data from your desktop or your laptop onto your handheld device also, right? You want to have applications and stores and access to those applications from any type of device. And so we don't forget about the Windows and desktop applications. Today, those are still dominant in most organizations, right? But there are mobile web apps, content management, so how you share data, and then collaboration is very important. And so we've kind of put together this solution overall that allows you to be able to move your data across any type of network, access it on any type of device. Right? So we think that the science of doing this certainly has developed far enough to allow it. The art of access, of optimizing for mobile experience is still really developing. It's not perfected there yet. But we've created even some of our own applications, which you'll see during the demonstration, to fill in where we think today's existing enterprise applications aren't doing so well. And so a key part of this is, right, people are happier. When people are happier, they're more productive. Right? They don't complain about the technology. They don't complain about access. They just need to do their job. And that's our goal, is making them happier, both for home and work too, right? Still bringing the security and services that they need. But when we think about happier, our slogan is work better, live better. And so that's something that's really important at CITRIX, because your work life impacts your business life, your personal life, right? And today we do more work in our personal life. And companies need to provide a balance that employees want. And so I wanted to show you a quick video around some of this, around a doctor, one of the premier doctors that works on, we call it pediatric surgery. He's a heart doctor, so he works on cardiac surgery on babies. A very, very difficult thing to do. And the challenge he has is balancing his work and life and getting access to the data that he needs, because if we think our work is important, right, saving the lives of babies, right, is one of the most important things you can do. And so we're honored, and it's something very important for us to see how this technology can really change and impact someone's work life too. So let's look at the video real quickly, please.
Got free PI after a transaction. We're going to take good care of it.
You have to be an innovator to be a great surgeon. And if you do your job well, in one 5 or 6 hour operation, you can save somebody's life.
So he's got free PI after a transannular patch.
Surgery is all about precision. Information technology allows me to achieve that level of precision.
Looks good.
The baby's hearts are like snowflakes. They're never the same. And so they present a unique challenge. We capture images of all of our patients' operations, which hasn't been done before, and we store those in our electronic medical record. CITRIX is now a daily part of my life. They're the engine that's running my information systems. When someone calls me and says, "This patient is sick, what should we do?" I need information about that patient. And it's there, I just have to be able to access it quickly so I can help somebody make the right decision. We generate so much data on our patients. It used to be extremely difficult to get that information. Call the hospital, have the nurse pull out the most recent laboratory values and read them to me. That took way too much time. People's lives are literally at stake here.
Okay, Chris, are we good? All right, we're gonna make an incision.
If you're not striving to make yourself better and make your team better, you're going to lose people that you could have saved. I want to be with my family when they need me, but I don't want to leave my patients unprotected. CITRIX technology enables me to access critical patient information anywhere, anytime, on any web-enabled device. We have an obligation as physicians to push forward with technology because we still can't cure everyone. My babies are the most important thing in my life. When I prepare to operate, I think of my children lying in bed at home, and I know how much of a life that child could have if he or she lives.
So we think this is, a huge impact and something that we're very proud of at CITRIX. We look at this capability of whether you're a doctor or whatever you're doing and think it's very important. Like I said, what he's doing, certainly is extremely important. When he got to Miami Hospital, Children's Hospital, the survival rate was only 4%. Right? Today, it's over 50%. Both from his new techniques that he's using, as well as getting access to the data he needs to make a decision. Like he said, it's become a part of his life. Those were real videos of him at home and his family and using the technology. And we think that the technology can become not onerous, not a barrier, but we think that it can help enable these types of users and companies to make a better change in the world. And so we think that's a great start, and we're very proud of this in person. So thank you very much for attending this.